Hey everybody, this is Jim from Wholiest of Coleus. I just wanted to post a video. I moved all my plants outside to my greenhouse, and if you haven't seen my past videos, I built this last year with my son around the same time this year. I mean, you could buy greenhouses, they're fancier, but they're several $1,000s. I decided to build this is considered a lean-to greenhouse, and I have it attached to my shed. And I built this using railroad ties as a base with the 4x8 plywood, 2x4s, and 2x3x8s framing for the door, and there's a vent window in the back. So that's basically you need. And the most expensive part would be the greenhouse plastic, which is a real heavy, specialized, almost like a drop cloth, but it's very thick, and it actually has printed on it a side, outdoor, outside, inside. So there's actually sides to it. And then finally, chicken wire. You can use really anything, hardware cloth. What I use, a chicken wire. It's inexpensive. Hardware cloth is very expensive, so I got a large thing of chicken wire, as you can see. So let's head in. And on the top is 40%. There's different percentages, but this is a shade cloth. You see this at many gardens, outdoor gardens. It cuts down the intensity of the sun. And here's a vent window. I'll use that later on in the summer. So let's open it up. It's nothing fancy, but it does the job. I bought some racks. I set them up. I don't have nearly as many plants this year as I did last year. I really overdid it last year. It was my first year. This year, actually, I did much less, and I think next year I'll do like a median. I'll do a little more than this. So, but anyway, I moved everything out here, and sun's starting to come out now, so it gets well over 100. It'll get over 120 degrees in here if everything's closed. So right now, I have it's important to have a thermostat, a thermometer, so it's almost 80 in here, and it's humid, and that's great for Coleus. That's like a multivitamin. Coleus love hot, humid weather. Not so much direct sun, so the shade cloth is over the whole top and down part of the sides. I made little windows, and it just, as you can see, the sun, it just cuts down the intensity, because in full sun in the summer it gets brutally hot in here. So that's my next subject is with a greenhouse, you have to ventilate. It's very important to ventilate your greenhouse. Open up the door. There's a vent there's a little window I made. It's nothing fancy. And here, this is an actual hinged frame window that'll open up, and I'll set up a fan, which I'll bring in later on, and hang it there. The hanging baskets will move. And it's important to keep the air moving in your greenhouse. You want lots of air movement. It doesn't have to be a hurricane. You don't want to damage the plants, but you need air movement for oxygen, but mostly for pest control. If you just have stagnant air sitting in here, then pests are just going to find a nice home on your plants, and that'll be the end of that. So you want to make sure you get lots of air movement in your greenhouse, and it boosts your it just gets the oxygen flowing. The plants will love it, and you'll see your plants really take off. Now again, I put these in last night or yesterday during the day, but these are really going to respond now, because now they're getting that sun. It's not direct. I put my Coleus here, and the planters themselves will shade them a little. I'll move them around. I also, as I mentioned, I decided to grow some peppers. I love peppers, and people were asking if I had vegetables. So I said, hey, let me grow some peppers. So I grew about 250 peppers, and I put 2 to a pot. So, and I'm going to sell these for around $3.50 a pot. There's a little, this is one of the first ones I planted as a test to see if it actually would grow, early January. So, and that's a nice little gift. It's a little Mother's Day gift. And that's a Darth Vader Coleus. But again, here's all my my peppers are doing pretty well. red, yellow, orange bell peppers. Here's some rootings. That one doesn't look too good, but I still think it'll come back. That's an old one. That's left over from 1.5 years ago. That was just, that's a little. It's actually, that's what this is. This plant I cut off of this plant. It actually broke off last year, or 8 months ago, I believe, and I rooted it in water, and that's what it is. So this is what was here. So I'm not giving up on that plant yet. So again, there are so many varieties of Coleus. There's like hundreds and hundreds, and again, my favorite are these Kongs. They just reach out, like I said, they reach out and they grab a hold of your eye. And I know once these start to fill up, you won't see any soil. You'll see a nice plant, and these are pretty nice. I'm actually keeping that. That's mine. That's not going anywhere. Here's a couple little smaller planters. And again, I'm going to keep some of these in nursery pots because people are going to want to buy Coleus just to plant outdoors. And if you want a little pot for your patio table or whatever, I'll have these. That's a Jitters. And last year I grew like 8 or 9 variety, and I really did a U-turn this year because I overdid it last year. But that's how you learn. Next year I'll plant a little more. Okay, here's some hanging baskets. Now, these will fill up, especially now they're in the greenhouse. They're really going to start to respond. I just make sure you get the air moving, and make sure they're watered, especially now they're in here. But I can tell, you get to tell whether or not they need water. I can tell by looking at them, but just feeling the weight. And these are some of the younger ones and then these will start to really take off. In another week or so, I'll post another video, and you can compare and see how they changed, how much they've grown. Some beautiful colors. Again, I just chose some Kongs and some couple of kaleidoscope. There's a couple of different varieties. I didn't go crazy. Some Jitters, as I posted, because these last year, people, every single Kong that I grew last year went instantly, and the others not so much. And I had some plain green like this. That's a electric lime. That's a rooting actually, and I had a whole bunch of those at the end of the year. But people, it's good for filler. As adjuncted to another a planter addition, but a standalone, people really don't want them. So again, these will start to really take off. There's a couple of some other window boxes I showed in my other video. There's a rooting. And again, they're in the greenhouse. They're a little shaded, which is exactly what they need. They need the heat and not so much direct sun. And that shade cloth really makes a big difference. It takes that intensity from the heat. Otherwise, these would burn right out. So I had the door open. Let's see. It's still like 80, about 78. And again, with the doors closed, no ventilation. Even today, like today, it's got to be close to 70. It'll go up to 120 in here, so I'm going to be careful. I'm going to close the door and get it up to around 90, and just make sure that I get some air moving in here. Now some of these got a little bit burned from the cold. I had them out. I had some of these out, and some of these younger ones didn't do that well. But they're not dead. They're far from dead. I trimmed some of the leaves, but they'll come right back. As long as there's still some green on them, they'll come back. Like that leaf, I'm just going to trim that, and even this one here, just trim it, and they'll grow back here. So The really healthy ones I use for the planters. You see that one? Some Coleus tend to get leggy. They Coleus like to grow tall, so I keep an eye on some of these. If they really start to get too tall up, you can cut them, and that'll promote the bottom. So, but it's too early. See how some of them? It depends on how I planted them too. I tried to plant the roots down, but again, these will fill up where you won't even see any soil. Most of them I have two. There's a few of them that I just put a single in. There's a silk stockings. That's a silk stockings also. That long single, and I just trimmed it, and that'll fill up. There's a bunch of jitters back there, and I'll move these around. It's good to move them around. Here's my peppers. So if you're interested in how to build a greenhouse, just shoot me a text and I'll give you the plans. It's really easy. Just designed this myself basically in an afternoon. So okay, all right, stay tuned for my next video next week, and you can see how the difference in how they've grown. They're really going to start to respond now that the warm weather's here and the sun. Remember last year. Okay, everybody, have a good weekend.